How's it going, everyone? Kapinarmic here. I just saw the Lego Batman movie yesterday, and I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit. Not necessarily a review, just a little mini discussion, I guess. I have like maybe 2 or 3 points I want to say, and then I'll just wrap it up. So I'll start off with some overall stuff first. I enjoyed the movie very much. I thought it was great, solid story, humor, voice acting. Some things I liked more in the Lego movie, other things I liked more in this movie, actually. I'll get further into those in a bit, or maybe not, maybe I'll forget, but I just want to put a spotlight on the animation for a second. I'd say the animations and visuals in general in this movie are definitely a step up from the Lego movie in 2014. And the Lego movie already had fantastic animation, but this just felt like a lot more cinematic. But everything still, moves like Legos, and that's something I really want to give immense props to, because it's one thing to animate something and make it flow right and make it feel lively, but to animate something with purposeful imperfections and still make it seem alive, I feel like that's a craft in and of itself. Just like the Lego movie, characters are purposefully stilted at times. There's stuttering movement depending on how slow a character is moving, straight up missing frames. When a form changes shape, Lego pieces are added or taken away. All this stuff is done on purpose to give you the feeling of, an actual brick film, an actual Lego stop motion video you'd find on YouTube. Despite all this being completely CG, they aren't bound by any sort of technical restraints, but adding those intentional imperfections actually make it a lot more believable. The one animation element I noticed here that actually wasn't in the original Lego movie, to my knowledge, was they actually added some pseudo squash and stretch in the arms. Like, if there was an action where the arm required an overshoot, their arm would actually become a different, slightly longer Lego piece and then settle back in with a normal arm. If you don't notice it when it happens, I don't blame you, because they last for maybe 1-2 frames at a time, but it really helps provide that extra kick for when they do actions that have an overshoot to them, or the fact that, they can overshoot with their arms at all. But yeah, in general, the character movements, scene compositions, camera work, lighting, it all made this world feel super vivid. Especially the lighting. Jeez. The lighting in this film was so gosh darn good. The lights really set the mood in a bunch of scenes. And one thing I noticed really quickly into this movie was its intense usage of green lighting. There's a ton of green lighting in this movie. It's almost like a staple, and it's handled very well. There's a lot of smoke and smog in this movie too, like real visual effects smoke. When I first noticed a big patch of smoke in the movie, at first I thought it was a bit strange that it wasn't, Lego smoke, because if I recall correctly, in the original Lego movie, that was something that they did. If something was moving fast, or like something like the train in the Old West scene, the smoke and dust, it was made out of, Legos. But then I quickly realized, there's a lot of smoke and smog in Lego Batman, and having Legos take the place of all that smoke would probably be incredibly visually distracting, so I'd say it was a good call that they went for the more realistic effects smoke. I mean, regardless, the smoke looks great in this. It doesn't feel out of place at all. Moving on from, animation and technical stuff and all that stuff, I do want to say how interesting it is that this movie actually exists. On my way back to the dorm after seeing this movie, it occurred to me all the what-ifs that came together to make this movie actually possible. Two of the biggest factors of this movie are its, satire and parody. It puts Batman into this comical light, and, it makes fun of the Batman character, the Batman tropes. A majority of this film is dedicated to mocking, ridiculing, and poking fun at the flaws of the Batman domain. And I, for one, am a pretty big fan of satire and meta humor and things of the such. And movies such as this don't seem very common. And most of the times they seem to be aimed toward an older age group. Movies like Scary Movie, Meet the Spartans, Cabin in the Woods, stuff like that. And granted, I haven't actually seen any of those other films, but the fact of the matter is that this is a corporate theatrical animated parody movie in 2017. This is a time where a lot of companies are really playing it safe. You look around and you see a bunch of remakes, a bunch of reboots, and movies based off of well-known books. And while Lego Batman isn't an enormous risk, it's Legos, it's Batman, people are gonna see it, of course. I know that there was no doubt in the executives' minds that this would make money. It's just that the entire temperament of this movie isn't something I would expect to see in 2017. And that's definitely a good thing. But I don't think there's a chance that a movie like this would have gotten picked up off the ground if it wasn't for the Lego franchise itself. And it's really interesting to think about that if Lego, the company, hadn't gone through the business choices it went through years upon years ago, that there's no way that this theatrical movie with a multi-million-dollar budget making fun of Batman would ever exist. This is a vibe Lego has had for years and stuff like their video games and direct-to-video DVD movies and stuff like that. They poke fun at their source material a lot, so they provide that vessel for this IP to slip into without it seeming jarring. Batman's most recent film before this was Batman v Superman, unless you count The Killing Joke, which came a few months after. But regardless, both are fairly serious, dark movies. And then you have Batman here acting like a cocky little preteen, a few months later. The Lego moniker not only serves as a brand that everybody young and old would relate to, but also provides this natural separation to make this type of movie more feasible. But on top of the whole parody satire thing, what makes this even better is that it actually has a solid story. It was a tad slow for me at the beginning of the second act, I suppose, but other than that, I'd say that this had a great storyline. And I want to bring that to attention because it is so easy to mess a movie like this up. And I think that might be one of the reasons why movies like this aren't very common, regardless of animated or not, regardless of what age group it's aiming towards. It's a miracle alone that this movie got to pull off the parody, but it's so easy to focus on that aspect, to focus on the point of making fun of your source material and telling jokes about it and all that stuff. It's so easy to get caught up in that aspect that it doesn't actually have a base to ride on. You're just making a bunch of Batman jokes, and there's no actual progression in characters, no actual progression in story, nothing actually changes. And this movie doesn't suffer from that, thankfully. Aside from this movie being good from a satirical standpoint, it's also still a good movie from a straight-up storytelling point of view. You don't need to know everything about Batman to enjoy this movie. And while it does indeed pack that extra punch, if you have a slight Batman knowledge, this movie is self-contained. It all exists inside its own little bubble. You're not going to go, man, if I saw Dark Knight Rises, I probably would have enjoyed this movie a lot more. You don't have to worry about stuff like that. And, I would hope so, because it would be pretty idiotic from a storytelling, financial, and just a practical standpoint to alienate that much of a potential audience. But I take it from someone like me, I haven't seen... The only Batman movie I've seen outside of this has been the Killing Joke and one other animated one. I haven't seen a single live action Batman movie, and it's like I have a standard Batman knowledge. Like, I haven't seen any of those live action movies, but I know the things that people talk about when they refer to those things, like stuff like Bane's voice and just general stuff like that. You don't have to dig deep into the Batman lore in order to enjoy this movie, which should be the standard. Like, I shouldn't even be giving the movie props for something like this, because this is something that should be automatic. But considering that the other few times that this sort of thing has been done and how easily it's been screwed up, I feel like I kind of have to give Lego Batman props for just not screwing it up, and also just being a good movie in general. But I think that's all I actually wanted to say at the moment. Those were the main couple of points I wanted to bring to the table. Nothing else is really coming to mind at the moment. Pop music. There was actually quite a bit of pop music in this movie, which is weird because the Lego movie didn't have any, as far as I'm aware. Maybe one, but I can't even remember like a single usage of like already established music in that movie, and this one actually had quite a bit. But not that that's a bad thing at all. It's just that it's definitely noticeable. But yeah, if you made it all the way through this thing, I thank you for listening. Thanks for hearing me ramble about Lego Batman, and I'll see you in whatever the next video I make is 8 years from now. Something about being one opinion on the internet, and I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching or listening.